How do elite athletes actually eat? Today we're gonna look at a video from Josh Brett, trying to uncover the nutrition from some of the best athletes in the world. Question is, are athletes actually as healthy as we think they are? Let's take a look.
If you ate 100 chicken nuggets a day at the Beijing Olympics, I think 1,000 chicken nuggets, and then you won a couple gold medals.
You might think elite athletes have the healthiest diets in the world, or that they don't care and can get away with anything. But the truth might surprise you.
Everybody that's ever been close to LeBron has said how shitty of a diet he has. He eats cookies, he eats everything.
But what looks unhealthy is often consumed by athletes to optimize performance.
If you want to be able to perform the best, no matter what you're doing, you have to be able to have nutritious foods.
But with rumors, advertising, and crazy headlines,
it might be quicker to talk about the things that aren't misconceptions.
Good nutrition is at the core of high performance.
So good.
insane body transformations, world records, and crazy longevity.
From what I know and from what I read a lot about it, is just more food than gym.
To make sense of it all, I
True.
spoke to the coach to the Olympians, the man who wrote the book on peak athletic performance, so we can find out how elite athletes actually eat.
Your diet: 1 cup of coffee, 3 to 4 bags of candy, and 1 meal. Is that true?
I don't have time to lie.
Some of the world's best athletes have the most surprising diets.
My uncle told me, man, you disrespectful if you call them Skittles. You say they power pellets.
Marshawn Lynch consumed so many Skittles during games, fans held up signs saying, "Feed him and he'll..."
Come on. Fucking Skittles. I mean, I know like most athletes, they run on glucose, like they're just basically carbs addict, but like Skittles, come on. At least a piece of fruit, right?
Run. Meanwhile, the NFL's fastest player, the Cheetah, credits his speed to an unexpected pre-game snack.
You know, I feel like this is part of my grandmother's secret recipe for me being so fast. You know, this is Cheetah fuel right here. This right here, game day fuel.
Lionel Messi won.
How do they know, right? Like these guys are like the peak pinnacle of genetic performance. How do you know that it's this fucking slop fast food that's making you go faster? It's not like they did a perfect study using the same person, comparing diets and then measuring how fast they can be according to what they ate. Like, I doubt they've done that. They just go based on intuition and maybe a little bit of religious belief. All right, let's see where this goes.
It's confessed, "I ate badly for years. Chocolates, fizzy drinks, everything. That's why I threw up during games." Meanwhile, Premier League veteran Jamie Vardy has a pre-game strategy that sounds like it belongs to an underslept builder.
At 37 years of age now, what is your pre-match diet?
Wake up, Red Bull, get to the stadium for pre-match. It'd be Red Bull and a cheese and ham omelette. Then maybe have a coffee, back to the dressing room to get ready and start sipping on.
Jesus, so much fucking Red Bull. And look at the under eye bag. I mean, he looks pretty worn out. I don't run on caffeine all day. Don't get me wrong, maybe you can get away with it, but at some point you're just gonna crash and burn. That's the thing. A lot of these athletes, they can get away with it in their 20s and 30s, but as soon as they pass 40, they hit a wall and they just crash down.
Have a Red Bull.
Some athletes believe they are able to perform at their best, not despite their junk food diets, but because of them.
We play a barbaric sport. The immune system in the body needs fucking practice. You know how you get practice? By eating shit.
What? That whole theory that, oh, you need to strengthen your immune system by eating shit, what is that even based on? Like, what is the biochemistry mechanism that would make it better? All I know is that if you eat shit, it will actually weaken your immune system. That's so stupid. I think it was Paul Chek saying that like a teaspoon of processed sugar by itself can suppress the immune system for 4 hours. Not only that, but it will also accelerate breathing and stress out the entire system. So I just don't see it. What do you guys think? Do you think that eating a little bit of shit food can actually be beneficial or like stimulate whatever they're talking about? I'm curious to see. Please comment down below.
Wow. Eating shit.
What was I hearing here? I searched the internet for answers, and one name kept popping up: Dr. Mark Bubbs, a top coach to elite athletes. He's the expert when it comes to the science behind their diet.
Let's check him out. Dr. Mark Bubbs. Dr. Bubbs, blah, blah, is a naturopathic doctor, performance nutrition lead for Canada Basketball, and performance nutrition consultant for a portfolio of professional and Olympic athletes. New science. What is he a doctor in? Oh, great. Well, you know when he's recommending soy milk and potatoes and oat, that we're already fucked. Can we bring back Charles Poliquin, god damn it? I don't really know this guy, but I'll have to look into him. All right, let's keep going.
Top coach to elite athletes. He's the expert when it comes to the science behind their diets. I had to know what he thought about this, and he helped me see through the myths, but more importantly, helped me put this together to help you avoid falling for the mistakes.
Supplementation, in my opinion, it's one of the most important things in football.
There's thousands of different sports supplements. Athletes who use them have very different stacks, ranging from the basics to the more questionable.
When people take Viagra, it's a performance enhancer when you horizontally, right? So I take it to help my performance vertically.
And I'm out there
what?
Going crazy. I'm out there going crazy on the half of Viagra and a little bit of Red Bull, and people like, God damn, I can't stop Ocho for nothing.
Before you take one before the gym, there's zero evidence this helps, and is more likely to backfire.
What the fuck? People actually take Viagra as a performance-enhancing drug? What the fuck is wrong with people? Seriously. Just to show you, those athletes, they'll do anything at the cost of health just to increase performance. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm cramping.
You take anything for the game?
Yeah. Viagra.
That'll make you cramp.
So instead of blindly copying what supplements an athlete uses, it's smarter to choose based on evidence and expert advice.
Yeah, these are not, I mean, Mike Israetel is a buffoon. Dr. Trexler, not sure I know her. Don't know her not much. Dr. Helms, you know, for hypertrophy. Dr. Patrick, I think she's lost.
So what are some of the most evidence-based supplements for athletes?
You know, vitamin D is really important, and that's one that's easily influenceable with supplementation. So if you live somewhere with a true winter climate, you're going to need to supplement to really get that performance benefit from a recovery standpoint. Right? We know that getting above 90 nanomoles per liter is where we're going to get immune benefit. Above 75 nanomole per liter is where we get satellite cell activity benefits. Omega-3 is another really important one. Ideally above that 8% omega-3 index range, where you're going to get not just benefit for performance, but benefit for things like longevity as well. And a nice one for young athletes or athletes to think about is magnesium. Right? We've got good data now showing that athletes require 10 to 20%.
I mean, I agree with these things, but in my opinion, they should always be taken through diet, if possible, at all costs.
More magnesium than the general population.
It's no surprise why top football clubs provide these for their players, in addition to creatine, which can help with strength and recovery, and caffeine, which can boost energy. But scientists argue that supplements...
All of these supplements are usually toxic from manufacturing. Even the omega-3s, sometimes they'll be rancid by the time they get to you. Just eat like cod liver or something like that instead. You'll get all the benefits and more.
It's the least important part of any
without
diet,
the toxicity.
so completely the opposite of how they're marketed. Even Tom Brady has said that supplements can't replace proper nutrition. So why can't you replace food with supplements?
When you get certain things from food, like if you eat the whole orange, then you're getting all the array of different micronutrients in there, and they do have a synergistic effect. So this is why you hear a lot about a food-first approach, which is part of my philosophy as well. We want to try to get things in from food.
So if it's not the supplement...
Very true, yeah. Everything in nature, every whole food is, like he said, a synergistic complex of minerals, proteins, fat, amino acids, carbs, and so on and so forth. They work together in order for your body to assimilate them. Remember, food is not only fuel, but it's also information. When you eat an orange, the body, you recognize it as the orange complex. If you just take, ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, the body's like, what the fuck is this? Then your body needs to run around in your own mineral reserves and nutrient reserves to recreate the complex. So you might have solved the vitamin C, but then you're deficient everywhere else. It's a flawed model. Well, it's a good model if you want to sell a lot of supplements. What about you people? What kind of supplements do you take? I'm very curious, if any at all. Let me know down below.
Supplements they take which sets them apart. Then is knowing which foods are good and which foods are bad what makes the difference.
No carbs, no sugar, no dairy, no refined sugar.
You need to cut bread, less dairy. Don't eat cheese that much.
Yes, okay. I am gluten-free since 2010. I'm dairy-free and refined sugar-free.
So why are they doing this?
Dairy is probably one of the ones where just a lot of people have a bit of lactose intolerance that they're not really aware of. And so, if you're intolerant to lactose, then you're going to get some gas and bloating and discomfort. And so taking it out.
It's not only the lactose. I think in a lot of cases people are okay with the lactose, but it's actually some of the protein contained in the milk. I think when I was looking at Dr. Anthony J, he was saying that the milk has over 900 different proteins in small trace amount that we don't even know of. So you might be intolerant to any of those proteins, and that will trigger some low-grade inflammation, which over time can have a detrimental effect.
Proves that. If you can digest dairy, it's the gold standard protein, right? It's tremendously helpful and beneficial, right? When people talk about gluten, they typically have removed bread. It's not just the gluten in bread, it's the fact that it's highly fermentable. So if your gut already has more quote unquote bad bacteria, if you're stressed, not sleeping a lot, eating a lot of sugars, you're going to have a lot of bacteria in the gut that ferment very well. And so if you add breads on top of that, it's going to create a lot of gas and discomfort.
But bread is just undigestible slave food. It's not human food. I mean, have you ever a dough? Do you see how sticky and elastic that is? What do you think that does into your gut? Not to mention that gliadin, which is one of the protein that forms gluten, would actually stick into your gut. I think it will bind itself to the receptor CXCR3, which in turn will release zonulin. Zonulin will open the junction on those cell wall in your intestine, and then it can allow bad bacteria, undigested food particles to make it into the bloodstream. This is very problematic, and it's also known as leaky gut syndrome, or sometimes called gut permeability. This is very, very problematic, and it will be the cause for many autoimmune disease. So I think for most people, if you want something efficient, the first thing I would look into is eliminate grain from your diet, and you will probably feel amazing. Go try it out.
Bloating may be about avoiding foods in your diet. Micronutrition is more about what you include. A study on 19 Brazilian footballers revealed what happens when these are missing. 68% consumed insufficient magnesium and calcium, 74% lacked vitamin A, and 100% failed to get enough vitamin D.
Well, vitamin A, it's probably because they eat too much fucking vegetables. Real vitamin A, retinol, is found in animal fat. The vitamin A you find in vegetables is actually beta-carotene, and it has to be converted, and the conversion rate is extremely low. Also, I think you need some thyroid hormone in order to convert the beta-carotene into retinol. Retinol, when we say carrots are good for your eyes, it's bullshit. That's the beta-carotene. The real vitamin A is what's good for your retina. Retinol. Vitamin A, baby.
Vitamin and mineral deficiencies can impair testosterone, immunity, and joint and muscle health. One of the reasons Messi hired a nutritionist in 2014. And most top sports clubs have smoothie bars and tons of fruit in their canteens.
Most champions, I think, in the UFC are like 36, 37. So the longer that you can stay in the game and the longer you can, recover, the better you're going to be.
Private chefs and nutritionists handle a lot of the complexity, but the 2024 EPL top scorer boils it down to a simple rule.
I try to eat things that's real, with as less ingredients as possible. I think you got so much processed things in this world right now, so I think that's the thing, to eat real.
Meat, fish, veggies, fruit.
But wait, didn't we just learn?
He eats cookies, he eats everything.
We know from the research that dietary recall is really bad, right? And so you'll get somebody's diet on one day, and all of a sudden that becomes what they do every day. We saw this many years ago with Chris Froome in the Tour de France. He posted a picture of a low-carb breakfast, and everybody on the internet went crazy saying, hey, look, this guy's low-carb. That was one meal that he had for a planned and purposeful reason of strategically underfueling that morning, but it wasn't what he eats every day.
Well, DK...
This is very true. The media will tend to blow out everything out of proportion. And also, I know that these athletes often have sponsorship, disclosure agreements where they're not exactly allowed to tell you what they eat. Also, it's like a trade secret, right? If you find a diet that works really well for you, you wouldn't want to tell everybody. Also, if you're promoting fucking Skittles and shit, well, of course, you're not gonna go and say, oh, I eat carnivore, or I eat very low carbs, because, you probably have a lot of money on the line.
Metcalf claimed to run on candy earlier. He stated the opposite to GQ, that he was on a low-carb, vegetable diet. This guy. But the best athletes do include junk food in their diets. Tom Brady mentions in his book how he adjusted his strict approach to include pizza and bacon every now and again, stating, I have a friend who freaks out if it's not the most organic this or that. That stress is going to harm you way more than eating that Chippers.
What you don't want to remove in nutrition, and it's easy to do, is the enjoyment of sitting down and having a meal with your friends, with your family, right? We don't want to turn nutrition into a job, because training's hard enough, and being elite at whatever you're trying to do is hard enough, that we want to still keep it fun. And
I think people think of footballers as like a machine where we never have cheat meals or we never do anything bad. That's a false reality.
If eating 100% clean was essential...
Yeah, do you think like a 19-year-old athlete who just signed a multi-million-dollar contract is gonna eat like low-carb, high-quality, animal-based diet? Of course not. They're gonna eat their KFC and Popeyes and all that bullshit.
To peak athletic performance, why was Usain Bolt demolishing hundreds of chicken nuggets? And how can you explain the current world's fastest man and his favorite snack?
Raisin Bran Crunch, a necessity of all necessities.
Elite athletes don't always stick to a healthy diet. Some go for surprising and unhealthy pre-game meals. So let's take a look.
Before a competition for me would be like a chicken breast and maybe a little pasta. Carbs help because you're going to go out and play a lot of minutes and things of that nature.
It depends on the individual, but typically athletes are creatures of habit, so they like to have very similar meals before games. For example,
carbohydrate bars, banana, a lot of gels and stuff to get the energy back into your body.
Health is not the same as
Fuck me, man. Why is everyone's blasting carbs all the time? Especially like for sports like basketball, where you do need some type of endurance. I'm sure they would do so much better on like being fat adapted, beta oxidation instead of glycolysis. It's just, but we don't know these things. We need to test them and compare but the industry is still so brain dead and based on like the mainstream agenda that it's impossible to know, man.
Performance, and it's not the same as body composition. And so, my philosophy is thinking about it like a triangle. Each end of that triangle, you've got health on the top, let's say. On the lower right, you've got performance, and on the lower left, you've got body composition. If you're trying to qualify for the Olympics and it's every 4 years, you're going to really optimize to peak at that time. So you're moving yourself towards that lower right-hand corner for performance, but ultimately it's coming at the sacrifice of your health to a certain degree, because if you talk to any of the Olympians afterwards, they're worn out for weeks, months after the Olympics, right? This is sometimes the misnomer we see in social media or online, this idea of just being optimized 24/7, 365.
For some athletes, this might mean eating candy or hundreds of chicken nuggets.
I was just making sure I had the right food because there was you're in China, so you don't want to eat anything you don't know.
It's not uncommon for athletes to consume
This is such a sensitive subject, but the thing, like, if you look at Charles Poliquin's work, which arguably was one of the most successful strength coach of all time, who trained 800 Olympic athletes in 23 different sports, including the Olympics, all the major leagues, and he was feeding his athletes extremely low carbs. In fact, if they weren't sub 10% body fat for men and 16% body fat for women, he wouldn't feed them a single gram of carbs. He said, unless you need to deserve your carbs. Carbs are there to gain fat. So if you're above 12% or 10% body fat, you don't need a single carbs to perform. And he was pushing his athletes to world-class level really, really hard, and they were winning gold medals. Begs the question.
Pure sugar before competitions.
This is where speed, right? The ability for the food to get it from your mouth through your gut and into the tissue is the limiting factor. And so this is where those simple sugars can be really effective.
But most athletes' pre-game meal.
False. If you are fat adapted, even if you start having lower lipid levels in your body will be able to tap into your own reserves. Even me, I'm extremely lean, but I still probably have 50 to 100,000 calories just of fat onto my body. So running on carbohydrates is extremely inefficient because you have to suck in some sugar gels every 30 minutes just to maintain that strength level. But if you are fat adapted and you're burning fat for fuel, your energy level is always stable. If you don't believe me, go try it for yourself. All right, so far, not very impressed. I'm not really sure where this goes, but let's keep watching. It's a good video, though.
Are fairly similar.
I love sweet potato, chicken, broccoli, and some vegetables.
Ronaldo often has chicken, broccoli, and rice, while Simone Biles aims for a salad, chicken, and vegetables.
Around a match day, we won't serve red meat generally the night before the game because it's just too hard to break down.
It depends on your sport, depends on the individual, but certainly you're looking to have the bolus of protein, whether it's 20 or 40 grams, and then the amount of carbohydrate will depend really.
No red meat. I mean, I do understand that red meat is a little bit longer to digest, but this is where all the good nutrition is. I think it's just because their gut health is so wrecked from being pushed and stressed all the time and probably eating candies that they might not digest it well. Also, levels of stomach acid. I remember Charles Poliquin as well as other coaches mentioning that if you supplements with an enzymatic control HCl supplements, which is essentially just giving you more stomach acid, you will break down these meats a lot faster and actually assimilate more of it.
On the athlete, but a decent size of a complex carbohydrate, and then the amount of vegetable or fruit or etc. is really negotiable depending on how they feel and what they like to have before a game.
But there's no way elite athletes end up performing and looking like they do because of nutrient timing. What's more essential is the overall protein, carbs and fats athletes consume.
Protein is really the only thing we can kind of set it and forget it.
American footballers need around 160 to 230 grams of protein a day, according to a study, depending on position and weight. Surprisingly, Premier League players, despite being much smaller, averaged around 205 grams per day, well above UEFA's recommendations. Protein plays a key role in muscle growth and recovery, but it's the insane amount of carbs that some athletes consume that's most surprising.
Then as you get into like a Tour de France rider, on certain rides in the mountains, they might have 15 grams per kilogram per day, right? So like triple what an EPL player would have.
This could be almost 1,000 grams of carbs, based on the recent winner's weight. Lastly, while many people demonize them on social media, athletes typically consume 20 to 35% of their calories from fats for health.
Yeah, good. You need the fat for your hormones. In my opinion, I would probably get the carbs even lower than that, unless they're very, very, very lean. Yeah, because you need all your fat-soluble vitamins: vitamin A, vitamin D3, K2, vitamin E. So you won't find that in nuts or avocado. You'll find that in butter, beef fat, lard,
and vitamin absorption. In Chad Johnson's case, while he is eating a lot of McDonald's, after tracking his diet, you can see it provided him with everything he needed. But while sufficient macronutrients are important, their total energy value is by far the most key part of athletes.
No, it's not. Calories are absolutely fucking useless. This is a terrible unit to look at food energy. It has nothing to do with how our bodies process and metabolize and assimilate food. It's nonsense.
Nutrition. And to say athletes can eat a lot is an understatement.
Calories will vary depending on the individual, depending on how many minutes they're playing. And so with basketball, 4,000 calories.
American footballers consume upwards of 5,000 calories a day, depending on their position and weight, over double that of the average person, while Premier League footballers burnt 3,789 calories on match days and 2,956 calories on training days, on average, according to a small study.
As you go into endurance sport, that's when it really cranks up. Like that's when you get to the 6,000, 6,500, because they need to consume lots of fast carbohydrates, which we typically call sugars.
No, they don't.
Too few calories can lead to weight loss and poor recovery, while excessive calories can cause fat gain, which isn't always bad.
I used an example in Peak about Phil Kessel, NHL player, had one of the higher body fats in the team, but tested first in virtually all of the performance categories and missed the fewest amounts of games. And so it becomes this question of, why are we trying to take 2 or 3% body fat on?
We shouldn't. If he sits well at that body weight and performs well, that's totally fine. Everyone's set point of body fat percentage will be a little bit different. It's like me. I can hang around 10% body fat and feel great, but for a lot of men, they'll feel like shit. Body composition is not necessarily equate performance.
What is the goal? Is it actually going to help performance? Is it going to help health?
Getting these fundamentals right is how Chad Johnson was still able to perform at a top level despite eating so much McDonald's.
Now listen to me. I did it with no injuries, so you're not going to tell me the way I did it don't work. Because it worked.
And this is what stopped me from ever copying what a particular athlete eats, ever again. Because Dr. Bubbs suggests there's one major factor that keeps elite athletes ahead.
And so that's probably a big disconnect between what we see in the general population, which is always chasing after the shiny new toy, right? This herb from the depths of the jungle in some country versus, the real fundamentals.
Podcasts.
I agree with that. I think we've become over obsessed with like that magic elixir that comes from the mountain of fucking Peru that's extracted by crying virgins, some shit, The fundamentals of health are way more important, and I feel like a lot of athletes, they sacrifice their health for performance, but I think they're inseparable, especially if you want longevity. I remember Paul Chek had to argue with sports committees because whenever he was trying to fix injured athletes, the only thing that the sports committee was interested in is to win the next game. They didn't care if the player was not ready yet. They just wanted him to play and perform. So sometimes, because there's a lot of stakes, they are forced into sacrificing their health in the name of performance, but over time, they'll just basically ruin their athletes.
Media and most advertising will sensationalize the most shocking and novel parts of athlete diets, and this has most people focusing on the wrong things. It helps to use the analogy of a car.
Because if you don't have enough energy, it's like not having enough gas in the tank. You can't even drive the car far enough. The micronutrition becomes, keeping the engine running well, right? So like to change the oil and to check the engine lights that come on your car, the micronutrition helps to deal with that so that the athlete can stay resilient and adapt well, to their training.
Some cars can run a surprising amount of time without an oil change or with all the engine warning lights flashing.
Look, at the highest level, a lot of this is genetically driven as well. Some athletes are tremendously lean and they don't try at all to be lean, right? And they look like they're on the cover of the magazine and their diets are not very good. Now that catches up as you get into your 30s and 40s.
They weren't really understanding that because of their great genes and the fact that they were young, youthful, that was what was really carrying them.
But with increasing competition, nutrition is only becoming more important.
And that's actually the best predictor of success, or separating like national to international level competitors, is just, can you show up day after day, week after week to compete?
This is why small optimizations, when they become a distraction from the fundamentals, can end up causing more harm than good.
Now all of a sudden we've put the cart before the horse there and we're causing more problems than we're solving. I often think of it like different buckets, right? And so the big buckets are those fundamentals. So if you do really well with them, the water you can put in a big bucket is much more than what you could put in, say, a pint glass. And so when you're chasing these small wins, even if you maximize the very small win, it doesn't yield nearly as much as the fundamentals do. So just like in martial arts, repeat, repeat. Once you have a certain level of automation, right, consistency, then you kind of level up to the next belt, add the next layer on. And what I found over the years is that that's the best way, because then clients, whether you're a professional athlete, a weekend warrior, someone trying to really push themselves, all of a sudden you just start making better decisions and your worst decision becomes much better, which is actually a really big win.
Please remember this, the next time you see someone on social media pushing a diet based on what athletes eat. Elite athletes don't succeed because of niche methods. They excel because they master the fundamentals better than anyone else.
Consistency predicts the outcome.
All right, this was interesting. Well, first and foremost, I would like to do a shout out to Josh Brett for making an excellent video. You should go check out his YouTube channel. His content is really well made. I will link his channel in the description. So the first point I would like to make is I still think that the model of which we operate with the calories and the carbs and the macros and the broccoli is still a bit outdated. I think we are slowly seeing more and more athletes going low carbs, going animal based for a multiple of reasons, which is encouraging. Second is, do not just follow the diet from an elite athlete just because they said so. If they eat Skittles, don't just go around and eat Skittles, because these guys are like the top. They're the top tier genetics that have been selected out of a pool of millions of people. So of course they can get away with pretty much eating anything. But that begs the question, how well would they perform if they were on a proper animal diet? Also, a lot of the negative effect we start feeling from the diet only comes in later on in life, when the cumulative toxicity has built up in the body, and then at some point the body just starts giving out. And this is why I truly believe that whatever these athletes are doing is not great for health or longevity long term. Absolutely not. And so if you're really interested in health and feeling good and looking good, focus on the fundamentals. You should have a natural meat-based diet like people eat in nature. If you have some carbs, maybe based on fruits. If you're really, really lean, maybe it's permissible, but in most cases, I would keep it as little to none as possible. And then second point, light exposure. Light exposure is crucial. The first thing you want to do in the morning is get some natural sunlight into your eyes that will reset your circadian clock. Go get a good tan. And also some type of movement. It doesn't have to be working out at this level, because that will actually age you way too fast. Working out is just a stress. Yes, you do need some movement into your life. Walking will probably be the best one. But if you do want to do some type of exercise, maybe some form of calisthenics, 2, maybe 3 times a week, that is fine. But anything above that, I think, is unnecessary, and it will actually age you more and faster. And when it comes to supplementation, again, I do not believe you need any supplements unless proven otherwise by some tangible, measurable test. If not, I wouldn't bother. I would prioritize investing my money in high quality meat instead. Also, there is a lot more new videos coming your way, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.